Hello, welcome to a lesson on solving equations by factoring. Solving quadratic equations by factoring. Rearrange the equation so it's in standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Factor the polynomial, set each factor to 0. When you set each factor to 0, we are using the zero product property, which basically states if you are going to multiply two numbers together, one of them has to be 0 so that the product is 0. So if a times b is equal to 0, then either a or b is 0. Then you will solve each resulting equation. Let's get started. Number 1. It is in standard form, so we will factor. We will take out the greatest common factor and set each factor equal to 0 and solve. And that's all we need to do. So this is basically one more step after you factor. Number 2, we need the factors of negative 24 that add to 10, negative 2 and 12, and set each factor equal to 0 and solve each equation. You can always take your answers and plug them back in the original and make sure that the equation is equal to 0. Number 3, it is not in standard form, so we will need to subtract 13x from both sides. And now we'll need to factor. If we're going to use the AC method, we need the factors of 3 times 12 that add to b, which in this case is negative 13, negative 9, and negative 4. How you choose to factor here is your choice. You can use AC and factor by grouping, where you will rewrite this as 3x squared minus 9x minus 4x plus 12 equals 0, and factor by grouping. Or you can use the slide and divide, which I have explained in another video, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go x minus 9, x minus 4, divide by a. So I have x minus 3 and 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. Set both of your factors equal to 0. We have x is equal to 3. Add 4 to both sides and divide by 3. And we have 4/3. Number 4. We must put it in standard form by adding 64 to both sides. We need the factors of 64 that add to negative 16. And set each of your factors equal to 0. And if you want to check this one, we would have 8 squared minus 16 times 8. Does that equal negative 64? And it does. Negative 64 is equal to negative 64. So I just wanted to show you how you can check your answers. Number 5, it's written in standard form. We need to factor. You can factor AC, or you can notice that the first term is a perfect square, 2x times 2x. The last term is a perfect square, 7 times 7. 2 times 2x times 7 is 28x. So it's going to follow the pattern 2x plus 7, 2x plus 7. So 2x plus 7 is equal to 0. Subtract 7 from both sides and divide both sides by 2. Number 6. First, it must be equal to 0. So I added 3 to both sides. Use the AC, 7 times 3. The factors are 21 that add to 22. 1 and 21. So we can factor by grouping. Factor out the greatest common factor. And set both of your factors equal to 0. Subtract 1 from both sides and divide by 7. And subtract 3 from both sides. If you use the slide and divide method on number 6, you'll get the same factors and you will get the same answer. Application problems. Number 1. The height h in feet of a baseball after t seconds is given by h is equal to negative 16t squared plus 88t plus 3. At what value of t is the height of the baseball 75 feet? We have the height h, and it tells us the height is 75 feet. So we should substitute in 75 for the height. It says solve for t, which is time. So we'll set 75 equals negative 16t squared plus 88t plus 3. If we're going to factor this, we need this equal to 0. So we'll subtract 75 from both sides. And now we can factor the greatest common factor. We'll factor a negative 8. Leading coefficient is negative, so I'm going to take out a negative 8. Now, because we just have the greatest common factor of negative 8, I can divide both sides by negative 8, and I still have 0 is equal to 2t squared minus 11t plus 9. And now I need to factor this. So I need the factors of 18 that add to negative 11. And I'm going to factor this one using slide and divide. So I have t minus 9, t minus 2, and then I need to divide by a. A is 2. And then set both of the factors equal to 0. Since it is asking us for time and t is given in seconds, then we should write 9 over 2 in terms of seconds. So it will be 4.5 seconds and 1 second. All right, so let me draw a graph of kind of what's going on here. So we have the height of a baseball at time 0. So if you plug in 0 for t, you get 3. So the baseball is going up and coming down. And the question is asking you, when will it reach a height of 75 feet? Now, this is just a sketch. So it's going to hit 75 feet on its way up at 1 second. It's going to hit its max, and on the way back down at 4.5 seconds, it's going to reach 75 feet again. Number 2, the height h in feet of a golf ball after t seconds is given by h is equal to 96t minus 16t squared. At what value of t is the height of the golf ball 80 feet? So based on number 1, you should have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do here. Again, we have height in feet. We have height is equal to 96t minus 16t squared. We want to find the value of t when the height is 80 feet. So let's plug in 80. In order to solve the quadratic, we need it equal to 0. And this time I'm going to add 16t squared to both sides. Then I'm going to subtract 96t from both sides. And now it equals 0. I have a greatest common factor of 16. Again, I can divide both sides by 16, and it's not going to affect my answer. Now I need the factor. I need the factors of 5 that add to -6. So -1 and -5. Set your factors equal to 0 and solve. So we have 1 second and 5 seconds. And again, if we were just to kind of sketch a picture as to what's going on, the golf ball starts on the ground, it goes up and comes down, and the height of the golf ball at 80 feet, we'll just say this is 80, is going to happen at 1 second, and then on the way back down at 5 seconds. And then the second part to this question is asking you, how long will it take the golf ball to hit the ground? So we want to know, when will the golf ball hit the ground? Put a hint right here. What is the height of the golf ball when it hits the ground? Well, the height of a golf ball when it hits the ground is 0. So if the height is 0, we have 0 is equal to 96t minus 16t squared. So for me, I'm going to rewrite this as 16t squared minus 96t equals 0. So I added 16t to both 16t squared to both sides, subtracted 96t for both sides. Just makes it easier for me to factor. So it has a greatest common factor of 16t. And then set both of your factors equal to 0. So it should make sense that it starts on the ground, which is t is equal to 0. And then it's going to go up and it's going to come back down and it's going to hit the ground at 6 seconds. All right, so now we have some practice problems. Here are the 7 practice problems. I would advise you to stop the video, practice these, and come back and check your answers. All right, so I'm going to work out these practice problems. Number 1, it's already in standard form. You need the factors of -8 that add to -2. Factor and set each factor equal to 0. Add 4 to both sides and subtract 2 from both sides. Number 2, set it equal to 0. We need the factors of -16 that add to -5. Well, the factors of 16, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. I need a -16 and a sum of -5. Not going to happen, so we're going to call that one prime. Anytime we have a quadratic, we have an x squared. We need it equal to 0 in order to factor. Subtract 15 from both sides. There's a greatest common factor. And I will warn you, if you're using slide and divide and you don't take out the greatest common factor first, you'll notice when you try to multiply your factors back together, they will not be correct. Always have to take out that greatest common factor. Now we need the factors of -5 that add to 4. We can divide both sides by 3 if you want, or I'm just going to leave it in there right now. So we can divide both sides by 3 and it's gone. 0 divided by 3 is still 0. And I can set each of my factors equal to 0 and solve. Number 4, it's already set equal to 0. We need the factors of 49 that add to 14. 7 and 7. So x is equal to -7. Number 5, we need to set it equal to 0. So add 9 to both sides. We might notice that the first term is a perfect square, 2x times 2x. The last term is a perfect square, 3 times 3. 2 times 2x times 3 is 12x. So we know from the pattern that this is going to factor into 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3. We only need to set one of the factors equal to 0 because we'll get the same answer. Add 3 and divide by 2. So our answer is 3 over 2. Number 6, it's already equal to 0. We'll take out our greatest common factor, which is 2x. Now we have a difference of perfect squares. So that's going to factor into x minus 5, x plus 5. And now we'll set all 3 factors equal to 0 and solve. So 2x is equal to 0, x minus 5 is equal to 0, x plus 5 is equal to 0. Divide both sides by 2, add 5 to both sides, and subtract 5 from both sides. And finally, another golf ball problem. The flight of a golf ball is modeled by the equation. How long will it take the ball to hit the ground? Again, I ask you, how high is the ball when it hits the ground? When it hits the ground, the height is equal to 0. So from the previous problem, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add 16t squared to both sides. Then I'm going to subtract 64t from both sides. I can take out the greatest common factor, 16t, t minus 4. Set both factors equal to 0. So how long will it take the ball to hit the ground? 4 seconds. Again, this should make sense. If we sketch a picture, at time 0, you're at 0, 0, the ball goes up, the ball comes down, and it takes 4 seconds for that to occur. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next video.